good news has been in short supply since 2008. But if you wanted a potion for the pessimism of the past 8 years, the BRICS economies were ripe and ready. Their growth seemed to soar effortlessly above the mayhem below, year after year. So much so that there was lots of talk about the next entrance to this elite club. With most of the BRICS now falling on harder times, accession to the club isn't getting much press these days, although now it's probably a more pressing issue. As the search for growth of any kind is intensifying, maybe the next markets are the ones to watch. Indonesia has always been on EDC's list. Is it still showing the same kind of promise? Well, before answering, let's first look at the state of the BRICS. Brazil is dealing with something more than a recession. In fact, it's more like a depression, and its leadership transition is complicating things. Russia is not much better in growth terms. True, it's dealing with the fallout of low oil prices, but that dependence underlines its failure to diversify its economy meaningfully. South Africa is swooning, along with commodity prices, infrastructure worries, and leadership troubles. China, the perennial favorite, is still growing, but it seems to be at an ever-decelerating rate. Only India is bucking the trend. All told, it's almost a sea change from circumstances just 2 years ago. One might expect such a change to swamp economies in waiting. Not so with Indonesia. Sure, growth isn't what it was in the pre-recession days, but nobody can really boast that. What does stand out is that Indonesia's economy-wide growth is actually accelerating again. That couldn't be said from 2009 to 2014, when steady deceleration was the order of the day. What is more, this nascent growth is being fed by all sectors of the economy. Private consumption, exports, and government spending are all on the upswing, and investment spending, although a bit more choppy, is showing signs of life. Industrial production, a steady economic contributor in the post-recession period, now seems to be on a tear. Indonesia has long shown this kind of promise. With a population of 260 million, the World Economic Forum assesses its top strength as market size. At the same time, one of its lowest rankings is for labor market efficiency. Well, put these two things together, and it's an obvious location for labor-hungry economies with aging populations and a strong track record of labor efficiency. China sees this and counts Indonesia as one of its top target destinations for outward investments in manufacturing. Indonesia also scores well for its macroeconomic environment, thanks to a high savings rate and low national debt. Health and primary education also gets a nod, owing to favorable disease control and quality education scores. In fact, Indonesia outranks the rest of emerging Asia on all but 2 of the 12 broad categories that the World Economic Forum assesses for every country. Indonesia's challenges are perhaps better known. First, it's an archipelago of over 17,000 islands, of which 6,000 are known to be inhabited. Naturally, transportation is an issue, and infrastructure is identified as the 3rd highest challenge for doing business there. Navigating government bureaucracy is often a headache and is the number 2 concern for businesses. On top of the list is corruption. The score for the country's institutions is low and barely ahead of the developing Asia average. To round out the list, Indonesia also gets low marks for technological readiness, adding to the challenge of doing business there, but also identifying a key potential opportunity. Canada has steadily made inroads into Indonesia in recent years. Exports are dominated by 3 categories: wheat, non-metallic minerals, and pulp. However, these 3 are gradually losing ground to a rapidly growing group of up-and-comers: aerospace, machinery equipment, and processed foods, to name a few. Diversification of our exports to Indonesia is happening on a broad and exciting base, and has helped to steadily build up Canadian investments in Indonesia to over $4 billion. To underscore this, EDC is today opening up a regional representation in Jakarta, hoping to facilitate much more Canadian business in the future. The bottom line, global and regional woes notwithstanding, Indonesia is already moving from a next to a now economy. Canada has a foothold, and future activity is looking bright. Until next week, I'm Peter Hall.